Powell. Let's see, Jerome Powell. There was a press conference that he did last week. Jerome Powell was talking at the Economic Club of Washington. Let's see what we got here. Trump is speaking right now, so maybe we'll go through this first. Let's see what we got. Shocking disruption stops Oval Office. No. I want to see Jerome Powell, the Economic Club. Let's see what we got here. 46 minutes. This was streamed 5 days ago. Yeah, this looks like the right one. I want to show you guys what Jerome Powell said that sort of shook the markets last week. It was when he was delivering his speech. Let me see.
Those are very difficult. Podium about how the Fed would see these two and how it would address it. Just giving you a chance again to elaborate on that.
Right. So most of the time, when the economy is weak, inflation is low, and unemployment is high, and both of those call for lower interest rates to support activity, and vice versa. So most of the time, the two goals are not in tension, and they're not really in tension now. The labor market is still strong, but the shock that we're experiencing, the impulses we're feeling, are for higher unemployment and higher inflation, and our tool only does one of those two things at the same time. So it's a difficult place for central banks, to be in terms of what to do. And so the best we can do is we actually have a little provision in our consensus statement, which is the thing that we vote on to embody how we approach these questions. What we say is we will look at how far the economy is from each of those two goals, and then we'll ask, might there be different paces at which they would approach those goals? We'll look at those things and think about them, and we'll no doubt be a very difficult judgment. Again, we're not experiencing that now, but we could well be in that situation, as I mentioned in my remarks.
Just want to pick up on a word that is often used today: uncertainty. As a respondent to a Dallas Fed survey said, I've never felt more uncertainty about my business in my entire 40+ years career. The worry today is not just about immediate policy uncertainty, but an entire change in the US's economic philosophy. Not just policy uncertainty, so to speak, but structural uncertainty. One of the effects, as you've pointed out, of higher levels of uncertainty is that firms postpone investment. For instance, even after the tariffs stabilize, firms that contemplate reshoring production facilities will hesitate, not knowing if the tariffs will be reversed in the future, maybe by the next administration. How do you take such longer-term uncertainty into account in your policies?
So let me just agree that what comes back very strongly, and everyone will understand this. These are very fundamental changes in, long held, in some cases, policies in the United States. And there's not any real experience. I mean, the Smoot-Hawley tariffs were actually not this large, and they were 95 years ago. So there isn't a modern experience of how to think about this. And businesses and households are saying in surveys that they're experiencing incredibly high uncertainty. There's a lot of research, some of it from the Fed, showing that does lead to businesses and households stepping back from decisions, which of course makes common sense. And you hope that that's something that you go through a phase, and then what the things become more certain, and therefore people can resume normal economic activities given their understanding of what is the new normal. I mean, your question really is, what if the uncertainty remains high? I think that's a difficult environment. I think, I think people's expected rates of return would have to be higher. I think people would be, that would weigh on, to me, investment just in general. If the United States were to become a jurisdiction where risks are just structurally higher going forward, that would make us less attractive as a jurisdiction. We don't know that at this point, but I think that would be the effect.
Well, let me turn to financial markets. We've seen some volatility.
I think this is what ended up shocking the markets. So as soon as they started talking about stock market volatility,
Especially stock market volatility. I mean, the levels of the VIX are up to the levels they were in the early days of the pandemic, coming off somewhat now. Some people believe the Fed will intervene if the stock market plummets, the so-called Fed put. Are they correct?
let me answer that for Jerome. The answer is yes. The Fed put, in case you guys don't know, is this like well-accepted understanding in all financial markets that the Federal Reserve can pump the markets if things get too bad. And so a put is it's a derivative order where if the market goes down below a certain zone, then then you will execute buy orders in order to buy at a certain price. And so the Fed put idea is that if the market drops a certain amount, the Fed will step in and buy the market back up. And so that is the like protective layer for US financial markets. And so you can see Jerome Powell laugh and the whole crowd laughed. Why? Because everyone knows that this is true. The Fed put is real. We've all seen, quote unquote, the V-shaped recoveries whenever there's a massive recession in America or recession risk. And so, yeah, there is a Fed put.
I'm going to say no with an explanation.
You guys can tell by the laughs. It's like, yeah, the whole thing is a fucking sham and everyone knows, and it's haha, right?
So what I think is going on in markets is markets are processing what's going on. And, it's really the policies, particularly the trade policy. And really the question is, where is that going to come in? Where's that going to land? And we don't know that yet. And until we know that, you can't really make informed assessments that would still be highly uncertain. Once you know what the policies are, it'll still be highly uncertain what the economic effects will be. So markets are struggling with a lot of uncertainty, and that means volatility. But having said that, markets are functioning, conditional on being in such a challenging situation. Markets are doing what they're supposed to do. They're orderly, and they're functioning just about as you would expect them to function.
So we've seen volatility also in the bond market. And at a time when usually there's a flight to safety, we saw yields on the German Bund and the Japanese government bond come down, but we saw yields on US treasuries go up. What do you attribute this to?
So I would just say the same thing. I think it's very hard to know in real time. I've had a lot of experience with significant moves, for example, in the bond market, where there's a narrative that people land on.
All right, so the break-evens got hit. I'm still confident in seeing some kind of rejection back to the upside from the zone. And so I'm going to try again for the longs here at the inverted head and shoulders. Let's see if we can get a break back above. All right. We might go lower. Like I said, we have the 88.6 or the double bottom is still an option down here. And so make sure that you guys save enough ammo that if the market does come down for that double bottom, you can take advantage of that trade and sort of scoop it back up. I am taking the tester entries here at the inverse head and shoulders. And so we'll sort of, if the market does come down for the double bottom, I will have to enter more positions and scale into the trade. It's the benefits of working with the MNQ instead of NQ is way more flexibility.
And then 2 months later, you look back and go, that was completely wrong. So I think it's very, very premature to say exactly what's going on. There's some delevering going on among hedge funds in levered trades and things like that. It's also, again, it's the market's processing historically unique developments and with great uncertainty. And I think you'll probably see continued volatility. But I wouldn't try to be definitive about exactly what's causing that. I would just say markets are orderly and they're functioning kind of as you would expect them to in this time of high uncertainty.
So the Fed in its last meeting slowed the pace of shrinking of its balance sheet.
Dude, what is going on with my internet today? No, all the service is going bunky right now. Sorry, guys. Hey, 1 second.
Be definitive about exactly what's causing that. I would just say markets are orderly and they're functioning kind of as you would expect them to in this time of high uncertainty.
So the Fed.
By the way, if you guys are watching on YouTube, we're not answering YouTube questions anymore. But if you guys do want your question answered, you can either become a VIP member, or if you guys put in a super chat, one of the super chats, then we'll read those and we'll answer those questions. Just a heads up, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, welcome back. Drop a like on the stream.
Meeting slowed the pace of shrinking of its balance sheet.
See if we can reset this. Man, this is not cool.
Not so young, actually. They're getting older. They're getting older by the month. But 2,500 a week, and we're going to get it stopped ideally. Now, if for some...
I believe this is live. I'm going to have to double check this, but it says shocking. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt abruptly ended a press briefing at the Oval Office following Dr. Mehmet Oz's swearing in as CMS Administrator. Dude, Mehmet Oz. Mehmet Oz. Isn't that Dr. Oz? Mehmet Oz. CMS Administrator due to a reported medical emergency. As Donald Trump spoke, Leavitt shouted, "Press out, everybody get out right now," causing confusion amongst reporters and attendees. What?
Some reason...
Dr. Oz is getting sworn in for what? CMS Administrator.
The two parties makes it very difficult. We're just going to say you're foolish, you're fools, you're horrible people, and we're going to just take a pass. But hopefully we won't have to do that. And Marco's right in saying it. We want to see it end. Think of it. Every day, a lot of people are being killed, as we talk about, as they play games. So we're not gonna take that, and we'll see. I think we have a good chance of solving the problem. However, yeah.
To walk away completely from these efforts and these talks.
Well, I don't want to say that, but we want to see it end. We want to see it end. Yeah.
Vladimir Putin stalling your Mr. President?
I hope not. I'm going to let you know about that soon if he is, but I hope not. He's got a big force out there, big force. It's a war that should have never happened. It would have never happened if I was president. That's a war, and it didn't happen for 4 years. That's a war that should have never happened. October 7th, Israel would have never happened. Iran was broke. And now we'll see what happens with Iran. We have a lot of them out there. We have a lot of things that we're working on right now that shouldn't have happened. None of it. Ukraine would have never happened with Russia. October 7th would have never happened, so you wouldn't have had all the problems in the Middle East. The Afghanistan embarrassment, probably the most embarrassing day in the history of our country, would have never happened. Inflation would have never happened. By the way, prices are down. Groceries are down. Eggs, which you hit me so hard, I'll never forget the first week in office, they were screaming at me about eggs. I said, "What's going on with eggs?" They were doubling and tripling. I said, "I just got here." They were up like double, triple, and you couldn't get any. And they said, "You won't have eggs for Easter." Well, you can have all the eggs you want. I'll tell you, Brooke Rollins, Secretary of Agriculture, did a great job. And the egg prices are down 87%. But nobody talks about that. You can have all the eggs you want. We have too many eggs. In fact, if anything.
Interesting. So Dr. Oz is going to be the administrator for Medicare and Medicaid. Yo, son, this man, Donald Trump, Do you guys trust Doctor? I've never really seen a lot of the Dr. Oz shows. I know he's famous. I know he's a TV guy. It's kind of like Dr. Phil becoming the head of like, you know what I'm saying? Like, social services. I don't actually think that's a bad idea at all. Who has seen more dysfunctional families and has dealt and sat down with more dysfunctional families and American families than Dr. Phil, for fuck's sake? So maybe Dr. Oz might be a good person for this, but like, what do you guys think? If after seeing Dr. Oz, if you guys have watched his show over the years, do you trust him to be an administrator or is he more of an entertainer?
The prices are getting too low. So I just want to let you know, prices are down. Gasoline yesterday in 3 states hit $1.98 a gallon. And it looks like it's at a level that it hasn't seen since my days, my 4 years. So it's about I'd say maybe, I think we're going to be averaging $2.25 very soon. So I just want to let you know, though, because I keep hearing about prices and inflation. Prices are coming down, not going up. Only the fake news says they're going up. The only thing that's even are interest rates. And if we had a Fed chairman that understood what he was doing, interest rates would be coming down too. He should bring them down. Yeah, please.
So we're approaching the 88.6 from this low, like for a double bottom entry. So this is where I'm layering in more entries. As soon as the market pops back above the first couple entries I put in, I'll close those and just try and hold those wick entries if we do get this rejection. So still kind of banking on this rejection here off the higher time frame, 38.2 and the 61 fib of the continuation. Let's see if we get this push back to the upside. This is going to be that double bottom entry that we talked about before. Again, as soon as we see the rejection back above break even, I'm going to close those first couple orders and then just hold the wick entries. So let's see if we can unwind this trade profitably.
Negotiations going? What do you want to
I have to see, my whole life has been one big negotiation, and I know when people are playing us, and I know when they're not, and I have to see an enthusiasm to want to end it.
Let's see if we get a pump here. If it fills the wick and just continues to drop, then we'll be able to just, we have our stop losses set in the right place. But ideally, we can get this rejection to the upside, and then we can start to unwind some of those earlier positions.
By me getting involved, they'll say, oh.
And how crazy is it they had to end the briefing for CMS director because of a medical emergency? Dr. Oz, where were you, bro? Fix it.
Trump. This is not Trump's war. This is a war that should have never happened. Okay? Think of it. Those cities are crushed and crashed, and all those beautiful steeples, the most beautiful in the world, actually considered the most beautiful in the world. Most of them are now smashed to smithereens, as they say, and lying on the ground in a million pieces. Those towns are crushed, the whole place. It's so horrible. And millions of people are dead, far more than you think. That's one thing you're going to get out of this war. You're going to find out that your estimates are far lower than, it's far worse than people think. Nobody's playing anybody. We are going to see if we can get it done. I think we have a really good chance of getting it done, and it's coming to a head right now.
Support Ukraine militarily.
Say it.
If you do decide to move,
Moment of truth.
would you then continue to support Ukraine?
Well, I'm not going to say that because I think we're going to get it done.
Venezuelan men down in Texas who have been alerted that they are soon going to be deported under the Alien Enemies Act. Have you authorized that operation?
I don't know about the group you're talking about, but if they're bad people, I would certainly authorize it. Yeah. I won an election in a landslide. We won all 7 swing states. We won by millions of votes. We won 2,750 districts to 505 districts, 2,750 to 50. That's why the map, when you look at it, is all red. And one of the biggest reason, I think the biggest single reason, actually, I'd like to say it's because of this, because I think they're going to come up with things that are incredible. But probably the biggest reason was because of the border and because of illegal immigration. And the people of this country want those people out. Because what Biden did, and I don't know if he did it, I'm not even sure he knows what the hell he was doing, but what his people did, representing him, was allow millions and millions of people from jails, from prisons all over the world, people from mental institutions and insane asylums, gang members, drug dealers pouring into our place. And you know what? Our people voted for me to get them out. They want them out. They want them out. And we've done a hell of a job. And by the way, Ecuador and various places, but El Salvador.
Market's getting pretty aggressive here at the double bottom. So if we don't see a rejection in the next like probably minute candle, then thing is probably going to steamroll through. But I'll stay in the trade until stop losses get hit. I've already got my stop set in the right area. So let's see if we get this double bottom rejection and a push back to the upside. I will move my stops below the lows though, just in case there is a clean double bottom. We're not just going to get hit and then the market continues. So let's see what we got here. Let's see if we get this double bottom rejection. If not, it's all good. We'll reset, wait for the market to reset, excuse me. And tomorrow we got a lot of good trades lined up. So let's have some patience here. Let's see if we get a double bottom rejection and a push back up to this area. Then we can unwind this trade in some profits.
And helped by a lot of other states where they're helping us, actually, because you couldn't look what this man was thinking when they allowed open borders and people to come in. If you look at Venezuela, their crime is down by 72%. You know why? They took all their criminals off the street. They took all their prisoners from jail. They took murders. 11,088 murderers were released into our country. Bad things are going to happen. Bad things. And we're getting them out. And that's why I was elected. A judge wasn't elected to do that. I was elected to do that. And we're doing it in record fashion. We have the safest border, the most secure border we've ever had. See the Declaration of Independence? You should all read that before you leave. That's the real deal. You should all read it before you leave. Yeah. Sir, go ahead, please.
Senator Van Hollen sipping what appears to be margaritas.
Yeah.
Ringo Garcia down in El Salvador. Do you encourage other Democrats to fly down to El Salvador? Meet with this illegal alien who's an accused.
I like this guy. See, now this is the kind of a reporter we like. There
Right,
aren't
this isn't
enough
live.
of
I've
them.
seen this before. This ain't live. Oh, rest in peace to the Pope, man. Rest in peace to the Pope.
Honored to be able to do this a second time. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
President Trump, my name is Ken Howry. I'm your nominee to be ambassador to the Kingdom of Denmark.
We're getting like a baby rejection here. All we need is one candle to come up to break even, and we're able to unwind this trade in break even. So let's see if we can get this rejection back to the upside, at least to 725, like just 25, 30 point rejection back up, and we'll be able to unwind this thing in profits.
As your nominee to Denmark.
Thank you very much.
President Trump, thank you for the honor of a lifetime. My name is Stacy Feinberg, and hopefully I'll have the honor of serving in Luxembourg. And I think that this is the greatest presidency and the greatest time in history, and it's all because of you.
Thank you very much.
Nicole McGraw, nominated to serve in Croatia, and it's such an honor to be here with you today and to serve you and the American.
President Trump, thank you very much for your nominations.
So this is just the ambassadors going around the table introducing themselves for all the different countries. This is awesome to see because I don't know how often the ambassadors have actually sat down all in one room and met with the president. I think this level of like unity and like team spirit is exactly what America needs. So there's more cohesion in our foreign policy as opposed to each ambassador in every country kind of taking the liberty of doing whatever they want, kind of having like independent views from the U.S. government, which is just completely antithetical to having an ambassador in that country. So anyways, we're getting a nice double bottom rejection. We literally just need about 15, 20 more points in order to unwind this trade. And so let's see if we can get that move to the upside. I'll start to close out some trades as we get close to that break-even mark. That way the average entry price moves down. So let's see if we can get a follow through on this rejection. It's very aggressive on the higher time frames. Like you guys can see, there's a top side to this wick. This thing could continue to the downside. So I am being very, very mindful of that. But if we can just at least unwind this trade with this pullback that we're seeing, then we'll be able to walk away in some profits, get on the sidelines and watch how this trade plays out while we wait for a reset. Okay. Real close, we just need 10, 15 more points.
Look at Chile. And let me tell you, border patrol agents are so thankful for everything that you've done with them, but it's.
That man knows more about the border than anybody. I'm gonna tell you. Thank you.
President's a great honor. Thank you.
Thanks. Good luck.
Mr. President Brian Birch, if I'm confirmed, I'll be representing you at the Holy See. Catholics are very proud of your work. Your team is doing an excellent job. So thank you. Very honored to serve.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President, thank you again for the honor, the greatest privilege. My name is Summer Sparkus. I will serve this great man, the Republic of Malta. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The Republic of Malta. Okay.
Kingdom of
A little forex joke for you guys.
the United States, 250%. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, if I'm confirmed, I will be representing you in the state of Israel. It will be an extraordinary honor. And you've done more for Israel than any president in any time of its history, and we are grateful. And I'm hoping I'll get to be there by Passover.
Thank you, Mike. And Mike is an outstanding guy. They all are. And Mike, I think he's going to do.
There's a little bit of damage control. I'm actually going to close 2 positions here just in case this thing does, like the next candle does just completely drop through. What I'll do is some risk management here and actually just close out 2 of the contracts. And if the market does break back above, then it's fine. Whatever loss I did take on those 2 contracts, it'll be made up for. But making decisions off of risk management, like in case this thing does go against my positions, how can I protect myself now? And so the only thing about risk management is you have to accept the flip side, which is if this thing just completely smashes to the upside and we're in deep profits, you know, maybe I would have liked to have held those 2 positions so I didn't take the loss. But you can't think about like just how much money could I have made or how much money could I make the upside. You always have to look at the risk management first, which is if this thing doesn't go my way, am I comfortable with, let's say, losing this amount of money? The answer is no. Then you can reduce your losses before the market goes against your positions. And so that's what I decided to do here. Wasn't really feeling too hot about this trade, but let's see how it plays out. If it breaks back above break even, we'll still be able to do the original plan. But at least for now, I've been able to reduce some of my risk potential.
And it's very exciting. It's really exciting to have all of you. Would you have any questions, media, for the people that you just saw?
Okay, so now that we're above the break-even mark, what I can do is actually cut a few of those positions without taking a loss. And now I am in profits on this trade. And so if it does continue to run, I'll just be raking in profits and closing partial profits along the way. Okay, so that double bottom entry was the perfect one. I think I have 2 entries down here, but because of the earlier entries, my average price is kind of in the middle, but there's no problems here. We got 4 total. Let me make sure I have the right amount of stops here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Get rid of the extras. And protect this trade. I'll protect 2 of the orders and leave the others right below the double bottom. Okay, now that I'm in profits, I can even close one of these trades, secure some partial profits to make up for the losses I took right before I close the partials. So I got 3 left. I'll protect 2, leave 1 open, and let it ride. Put a 1 in the chats if you guys saw what just happened, if you guys were paying attention during this process. Patience pays, people. Patience pays. Is anyone in this trade making money? You gotta have faith, people. You gotta have faith. I know, especially when it gets the hardest, especially when it looks the worst. You can protect yourself in certain ways. You can take responsible decisions, but you have to trust the system, and you have to trust all of the back testing and the live testing and the live trades that you've taken, the memory bank that you've built. Oh, this thing is pumping now. All right, I'm going to secure one more of the contracts. No, no, no. Okay. It was lagging, so I thought it accidentally double selected and closed both. Oh, it did close both. This son of a gun. Oh, I hate when it lags like that. Unfortunate. All right, I still have one position running and break even. Ah, that's so unfortunate. Okay, well, we're in break even on that trade. I'll put it just above the zone because it's if this thing is going to continue to the upside, it'll have to close back above this support. And then it'll come back and make one retest through. So I want to make sure I leave enough space between my stop loss and where I believe that that correction is going to come down to. I don't want to leave it, too close to the entry, and I don't want to leave it too close to the current price. So that way it doesn't, just kick me out and keep going. But we have to expect that correction come back in. Anthony said, secured, done for the day, great trade. Anthony, love to see it, bro. Glad to see you took that action and capitalized. It takes some flexibility. Like, that's why I'm glad I'm able to demonstrate some of these concepts, because when I was doing this by myself, like, you'll make a lot of mistakes. But the biggest mistake that I've taken away is just it's bitching out, basically. Because you had an idea before you got in the trade of what you thought was going to happen. And the only reason that I started to second guess it is because now that there was money on the line, now I started to kind of like think back and forth between what if this happens and what if that happens. So clearly I hadn't changed my mind about the structural reasons I took the trade. What happened was I was bitching out. And so because of that, I had to do the opposite of what my instinct was. I couldn't just close all the trades and sit on the sideline. If I believed the trade was still valid, if it was still technically sound, you just got to sack up and hold. Right. And that's the point of like accepting the risk of the trade before you take the trade and stuff. All righty. See what we got here. So we weren't streaming this whole time, or what was going on? Oh, the privacy was unlisted. Oh, that is horrible. What the dude? That's not cool. That's so unfortunate. All right, take it easy, y'all. If you guys got to dip out, do your thing. Wildly unfortunate. Oh, it's still running. All right, now I'm going to be trailing my stops. Sheesh.
Going to be codifying a lot of the executive orders that we've done, which have been very popular. And we're looking at one, I will tell you right now, that I think perhaps will be controversial, but not with the people. And that's sanctuary cities. We're going to end sanctuary cities for some of these jurisdictions that aren't cooperating with law enforcement. They're guarding criminals. They're taking the rights away from the citizens of this state and their city. And we're going to be ending sanctuary cities if we find it necessary to do in certain major areas. And we may just end the entire thing altogether, because it's just a way of protecting criminals and nobody else is benefited by that. And for some reason, Democrats.
But can we just admire this entry together? Can we just admire how scaling into the trade with testers and then going into the double bottom, then once you unwind all the testers, all you're left with is the double bottom Hwick entry. Do you guys see how this plays out? Now your runner, after having secured some profits, even this thing is running more than the original profits were on all those trades. And so if it continues to the upside, all I have to do is just keep trailing my stops, and so there's no risk to my equity. And then if it continues, then yeah. And then at some point it's going to do a big ass correction. And then when that correction happens, then it'll kick me out. And that's when I'll finally jump out of the trade. So let's see what Trump's got to say here. We're going to let this trade play out. But this entry, Man, oh man. I'm happy with the way that this trade played out.
Want to keep, and they want to shield criminals from being sent back to their countries or being sent to prison. And in the meantime, the crime rate has gone through the roof. Under Biden, it was through the roof. It's starting to come down, but we're taking a lot of people out of here. So we may be presenting you very shortly with a executive order ending sanctuary cities.
Mr. President, are you going to change any of the practices that your national security officials used after a reporter was inadvertently added to a group chat about attacks on Yemen?
Well, I think it's a question I've been asked now, and I've given a few answers, and they've all been the same. We have an amazing group of our national security.
Let's see what we got here. So far, so good. If somebody tell me I've been too chill and I've been too calm, what do you guys want? You guys want me to spaz out? You want me to cook up? What do you guys want? I could do both, right? We're watching the ambassador speeches over here. I can cook, I can roast. I still got it. Let's see what we can do. I got a video here. We got Trump talking to the ambassadors of all the different countries that are going to be taken over. What can I really say here? Like, these guys ain't giving me much. I guess it's ironic we have countries like Lesotho sitting next to, the ambassador to like Vietnam, right? That's crazy. No one knows where Lesotho is. We got Malta sitting next to Israel. Like, you know what I'm saying? Some of these guys are gonna get up and say a speech. It's like, brother, you're here on it. This is a participation role, right? You don't have speaking lines. Read the script. You're gonna smile and wave. And also, I don't know if you guys know this, you can buy an ambassadorship in the United States. You can buy them. Some of them are as low as 100,000. People, I could become the next ambassador. If I had to pick one, I'd do Malta or St. Lucia or St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I don't know. Another forex joke for some of you guys. If you don't get the joke, it's above your pay grade. Don't worry about it. If you got the joke, then damn, you're plugged in.
Took out Ed Missileer, knocked out missiles, knocked out headquarters, knocked out communication sites. And for once, as we hear, as you all hear from every one of our allies.
Okay, let's see if we can find this clip of Jerome Powell. I fucking hate CNN, but let's,
We do have breaking.
Desperate times call for desperate measures. All right. I do not condone, approve of, or support CNN in any way, shape, or form. But they're a professional service, and they did manage to get to the ball first. And so let's see what they got.
News this morning. I got to say, it's breaking news that made the market sit up straight. President Trump, just a short time ago, declared on social media that the
Is that music coming from CNN?
termination of Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, quote, cannot come fast enough. So
the fuck is this music, bro? This guy thinks he's Leonidas from 300. The hell is this?
these are the strongest words the president has said out loud or written out loud, floating the idea of dismissing the Fed chair, a move.
Are you guys hearing this music? But why do I feel like the Persians are going to invade? What in the Gerard Butler is happening right now?
That's legally questionable. Not clear he could fire him if he wanted to. The timing also crucial. It comes just after Powell very publicly warned that the Fed would be in a tough spot as the president's tariffs raise prices and weaken the economy. He says prices likely will go up. It will likely slow down economic growth, and consumers do bear the costs of these tariffs. Let's get right to CNN's Elena Treen at the White House for this much more public front.
All right, this is a fucking hit piece as far as I can tell. Not interested. Let me see. Trump versus Jerome Powell. Can the U.S. president fire? Nope, that's some random channel. Dude, I had it saved on one of the tabs and I had it timestamped too. It was like 16 minutes into the speech. Let's see. Long story short, Trump said, I can't wait. Powell's resignation doesn't come fast enough. And Powell was saying that all of Trump's policies are going to cause inflation. So basically kind of countering the point that the White House has been making. Now, just in case everybody's like forgot, the Trump tariffs are going to be massively successful in the long term, as long as obviously the deep state doesn't keep trying to fuck with them and try to disrupt these. But there's going to be some short-term pain. You cannot disrupt all of these supply chains at the same time and not expect some, effect on prices. If they're going to make Apple iPhones here, if they're going to start to make Nike shoes here, they're going to be more expensive than using child slave labor in Foxconn, okay? But everybody in the White House and in the government has been on the same page about not pressing that too much and kind of preparing people for the short-term pain, but instead focusing on the upside. Because guys, recessions mostly in America, they happen because of sentiment. So if everybody is scared of a recession, they stop spending. If people stop spending, companies stop making money. And so they have to lay people off. And then when people get laid off, then they actually stop spending, and then their friends stop spending. And so having people scared versus hopeful, the government has been very focused on the upside benefits of all of these policies, as opposed to playing into the negativity, which could actually cause the recession that they're so scared of. And then Jerome Powell gets up there and he's like, yeah, no, this is definitely going to fuck up the economy. And just kind of puts the whole White House in a spot where they now have to justify and explain themselves. So that's kind of what led to that contention when Powell was on stage at the Economic Club of Chicago on Friday. And then Trump gets up on his podium and says that he basically can't wait for Jerome Powell to be out. I actually can't think of a single human that they could put as the head of the Federal Reserve that I feel like they would have made a good choice. There's like very, very, guys, it's the toughest job in the world. What the fuck are you doing? You're the Wizard of Oz, like behind the scenes, running the entire show, weaponizing the dollar system and trying to stay independent from politics. Nobody wants this job, but Jerome Powell has been doing. I'd give him a B+, honestly. If we give Bernanke a fucking C- or a D, right? If we give Greenspan a fucking C, I'll give Janet Yellen an F-. I'd give Jerome Powell a B+, if we're just going to be 100% honest here. So might be the best Fed chairman of our lifetime. Greenspan, was a decent Fed chairman. Bernanke's the one that brought on TARP and quantitative easing, and sort of like, him, Dr. Weber was in there, and they sort of started this whole money printing extravaganza, which took the 01 bubble, like the dot-com bubble, and all the policies they made after the dot-com bubble that led to the 08 crisis. They basically, the problem that we're currently dealing with today is all as of a response to the 08 crisis. All the money they printed, all the policies, Dodd-Frank, Basel Accords, the capital requirements for the banks, the oversight, the overregulation with CFTC and SEC and FINRA and the rest, all of that has stifled innovation in the financial sector and sort of made things way more susceptible to the next crash because of the money that they put into the system. Then 2020 just basically blew all that out the water again, and is too late to turn back after the 2020 crisis. So now there's no Fed chairman that can actually reel this genie back in the bottle. This has to happen from the government itself, with the budget, the spending, the deficits, and of course the appropriation of money to these different agencies. That's all up to the government now. And so the government has to make these crazy policies, because the Fed can't step in anymore. If the Fed steps in on this next recession, they're only ever going to make the problem worse. They're kicking the can down the road. So I hope you guys understand what's happening here is that they fucked us so bad. We don't have a choice but to have to do radical policies. And I've been saying this for a while. This is a political point, but I'm blanking on who originally made this quote. But if socialists don't secure their borders, then fascists will. A socialist is somebody who is trying to create some sort of equity in the economy or in society, even though it's unnatural and you're going to be fucking everything up. But because you're too loose and too lax on your border policies, then a fascist, someone who doesn't take no for an answer, someone whose way will be the way. It's my way or the highway, it's their way. And so a fascist will secure the borders if socialists don't. And this is the pendulum swing that we're seeing now. The best thing that I need everyone here to do is, especially if you're a conservative, especially if you've been sort of like supporting the Trump campaign, is now is the time that we need to hold everyone accountable. Because what happens after this is right now they're swinging the pendulum from the woke madness all the way back the other way. But what happens when the president's cabinet gets emboldened, and now the supporters of some of these policies get emboldened for all the wrong reasons, and now we need to reel that genie back in, there does need to be, like, we should all be praying that the Democrats find like 3 or 4 sensible people and start to rebuild that party from like not crazy people. Because when this power struggle eventually starts to turn and the Republicans or the Trumpians, the MAGA Republicans, start to get way too emboldened, start to get way too confident, they start to stretch some of the laws in the country, they start to disregard some of the judicial rulings coming out, we're going to need a counterbalance there to make sure that this country doesn't fall fully into fascism. This is exactly what happens. And so there does need to be people paying attention. I think that's all of our responsibilities. That's what we're seeing now. Let's see what Jerome Powell said.
All right, so we begin this hour with a strongly worded response from President Trump on Fed Chair Jerome Powell's comments at a conference yesterday. Powell says the central bank could face a challenging scenario as it adjusts to the tariffs imposed by the White House. He also warned that Trump tariff conflict would likely include higher inflation and slower growth. President Trump snapped back on Truth Social this morning. You see it right here. He's calling Powell, quote, too late and wrong. He also says Powell's termination cannot come fast enough. As you see, that's a direct quote. And we have team coverage on this for you this morning. CBS News Money Watch correspondent Kelly O'Grady is in Studio 57. You see her on the right of your screen. But let's begin.
Looks like we might have a continuation here, people. We can either see this triple top formation, or we can see a continuation all the way up to the 840 zone that we were looking at prior. I don't know, man. I'm pretty happy about the way that this trade ended up playing out. We got a little bit more steam here than I thought we would, but we had an 88.6 rejection, 88.6 rejection, and now it seems like we're breaking above. And so any closure above this resistance level on the smaller timeframes here, any closure above on the 5-minute, that would mean a retest and a continuation to the upside. And so far, so good. I might actually closing the trade makes no sense. I'm just going to continue to trail my stops. That way, if the market reverses, then it'll just kick me out at a much more favorable price.
Executive order. Now, I tried to ask the White House for clarification about that tweet, what exactly the president meant by that. And one of the communications team said, well, we'll have to wait and see what the president says about it later today when he's likely going to be asked about it by reporters. Now, note that Chair Powell's term as chair expires in May of next year, 2026, but his term as member on the board of governors expires in 2028, Errol.
And meanwhile, Natalie, the state of California is now filing a lawsuit in regards to the president's sweeping tariff policy. This state would be one of the world's largest economies by itself. What's the justification for why California is doing this?
Yeah, California, the 5th largest economy in the world. Well, the governor there, Gavin Newsom, and according to this new suit, says that the president does not have the authority to unilaterally impose tariffs under that act.
Correction. Yes, the fuck he does. Okay? Like these, California's got to find better excuses and comebacks for all these things. This is the first year in history. I want you guys to remember this. 2022, 2023 was the first time in American history that California had a net negative migration, meaning more people moved out of the state than moved in. That's never happened. It's one of the most beautiful pieces of real estate in the whole damn country. Right now, on the second hand, you have all these massive commercial enterprises like Walmart and TJ Maxx and Target and Starbucks that have moved out of certain key cities. You have the commercial real estate market in San Francisco completely decimated. And so maybe California should be focused on their domestic economy a little bit more. Now, we obviously have a lot of the shipping that happens in America comes from California because a lot of the Chinese goods make it through the Pacific and they end up on the ports of California. And so clearly they're feeling the hit of these tariffs. This is like, this is not really like a big argument here. However, I don't think that California would be complaining as much if their economy wasn't already in such a shit spot. And so clearly they're going to be feeling this pain. Maybe they should get Gavin Newsom the fuck out of office, and then maybe Trump will play a bit nicer and give some reprieve. I'm just throwing that out there, just some wild ideas.
The International Economic Foreign Powers Act, which was used to impose this sweeping tariff policy. He's also noted that his state, with heavy investment in the tech sector in agriculture, could stand to lose, he says, billions of dollars. Take a listen to what he had to say.
This is recklessness at another level. The impact's already on the lack of investment.
But why does he always sound like he just ate a box of nails? Bro, get him some fucking water. I know that you guys have a water crisis in California, but I don't think a glass is going to tip the scales. So maybe get some. Bro, I've never heard Gavin Newsom talk without like the raspy cocaine voice. Like, but get help. Seek Jesus. Seek Jesus. I don't trust a word that guy. He might be the least trustworthy person I've ever seen in my life. Hands down, bar none.
Person. Small.
Besides that one preacher, you guys know that one, the evangelist preacher dude who's a complete fraud. What's his name? You guys know who I'm talking about. He's got the crazy look in his eyes. He's a complete fraud. What's that guy's name? Fucking. He's like one of these big televangelists. Anyways, those two basically tied up.
Uncertainty.
Yes, NASDAQ is pumping. Entry price is at 17,705. We're already at almost 100 points. No, we just broke over 100 points. Trade is in break even and stops being trailed. I'd say it's a pretty good day. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to close out this trade. Hit exit all positions and cancel. Exit all positions and cancel. Beautiful. Okay, good stuff. Pretty solid trade. We had entries down here. Well, the first entries were at the inverted head and shoulders right here. So here's the left shoulder. I took my first entries right here at the inverse head and shoulders, and the market dropped down. I took more entries in between, and then it dropped down, and I took the last entries at the double bottom. Once price made this first 5-minute candle and broke above all of my previous entries, I managed to close the majority of them, and then I held the rest and break even. An absolute beauty of a trade. If any questions, go ahead and put them in. If you guys are watching on YouTube, drop a super chat, and we'll be able to cover any of the questions that you guys have. Also, let's see what updates we got. That's basically most of the updates we got for today. I know that there's some China updates, but because the board is changing so fast, we'll save those for tomorrow morning. The most important thing is, everybody, we have a promo code for you guys for Easter. Make sure you guys don't miss out on this. You just saw the trades. You guys have been seeing the trades we've taken, hopefully for years. If you guys are newer, then you can go back and check all the previous live streams that we've done. But you guys can use promo code Easter50 to register early for the May Masterclass. If you guys missed out on the April Masterclass, I'm sorry for you. But don't miss out on the next one. Registration is going to close on May 11th. Make sure to use code Easter50. It's going to be valid for 2 more days. Make sure to, guys, get your seats to the masterclass. Get access to the VIP group chat where you guys can trade with myself and the rest of the team. Get access to the one-on-one coaching with me. It all comes part of the same package. Don't miss out. Look forward to seeing you guys there. Again, use promo code Easter50. Link is in the description. We got Dr. Oz as the head of Medicare and Medicaid. We got Dan Bongino as the associated, or as the deputy director for the FBI, right? All we need is Dr. Phil for Child Protective Services. And I think we got the fucking full stack. All right. More updates coming from the tariff war coming very soon. Jerome Powell clearly not happy with Trump, and Trump not happy with Powell. But guess what? He can't get rid of Powell because unless he does something illegal, which he hasn't. And the independence of the Fed from the U.S. government is something that is sacrosanct, or sacrosanct, however you say that word. It's holy. You can't touch it, even if you're Trump. Okay? You can't just grab it by the you-know-what. You got to respect the law. Okay? Ladies and gents, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, put them in the description or put them in the comments below. Otherwise, happy and safe trading. Take it easy.